Welcome to the first vlog, or should I say podcast, or I'm not really sure. The first time I'm trying a different approach on the content that I'm usually posting here on YouTube, because honestly, the weather was so nasty. It continuously rained cats and dogs, and I wasn't really able to plan any other vehicle for review. And actually, I tried a couple of times to film a video, and I was not pleased with the way the review would have come up. So yeah, I decided to ditch for this week at least the reviews and to try, as I said, a different approach. So yeah, I've made nearly a year ago, almost a year ago, I've made a video on the Cars Reviewed channel with some context, and I went through the cars that I used to own and or to drive from the family. And now I thought that the first vlog, if I should call it this way, should be about my experience with a used electric car. How did I end up buying a used electric car? What were the positives and the negatives? And hopefully, after you watch this video, you get a bit of an inbolt in buying a used electric car. Maybe I could answer some of your questions, and who knows, if it's gonna be worth it. I think I'll do a series of content like this one, not necessarily one week after another, but we'll see, depending on the weather, probably, and depending if I'm gonna get some feedback from you in the comment section. But anyway, yeah, as you can see, it's still kind of raining outside, and the wipers on this car are not helping me very much, because the car got a ceramic coating, and yeah, it's not the best quality in my opinion, but anyway, and probably that's why the wipers are doing that noise. But as you can see, we are in an electric car. I'm still with the ENIAC from my family. The car has not been sold until now, and I'm not really through with my purchase of a new car. So yeah, I thought I should give it a go. I reviewed this car. If you want to see the video, it's already on Cars Reviewed channel, on my former channel. And if you want to see the new ENIAC, the RS variant, is the review is up on the current channel on Masini. Anyway, let's get back to our topic. Yeah, so I was talking about, in the context video, I was talking about my former cars, and in recent times I did get to own an Audi A7, which was actually one of my favorite cars. Okay, that was weird. Some happy doggo, or not so happy actually. Anyway, it was one of my favorite cars. I've waited a long time to purchase that one. It was a ITDI version, facelifted, from 2015, with almost 90,000 kilometers at the day of the purchase, and I've sold it after about 50,000 kilometers because it was a diesel and it was quite a large engine for Romania at least. It was a 3-liter, and at that time I was doing a lot of city driving. Maybe 80 to 90% of the time I was driving inside a city. And even though I enjoyed that car very much, it was okay. We still have some roadworks here. As I said, I enjoyed it. It did had some performance figures, some comfort, some interesting features. The seats were very nice. I also took it to some road trips outside the country, and it performed beautifully. But as I said, I was driving it mostly inside the city, so I figured that I will kill the engine. So I've gotten to the sad conclusion that I need to sell it. And I was thinking about some hybrids, actually plug-in hybrids, because I didn't have Webasto on the A7, and I wanted to have that comfort of being able to warm up the cabin before I got to the car, especially as I had leather seats on the Audi. So yeah, I was thinking about plugins because back then I used to live in a flat, in an apartment building, and I was not able to depend on public charging for an electric car, or so I thought. More on that later. But yeah, I figured that it would be the best of both worlds to go for a plug-in. I looked at some new cars, even the Cupra Formentor. It was an interesting choice, but with only 200 horsepower for the plug-in version that I had the budget at that time. I felt that is not enough, and it was only front-wheel drive and whatever. Then I started looking at used cars, or nearly new used cars. I looked at the X5 from BMW. Even though I'm not a fan of SUVs, I do like the look of that car. It was the former generation. The plug-in was X-Drive 40e. And yeah, it was interesting. It had about 313 horsepower, which was almost the same that my A7 had at 320, but it was a lot heavier, and once again, it was quite tall because it's a full-size SUV here in Europe. So yeah, it wasn't really for me. But then I found some 5 Series, the 530e, which was a bit down on power with only 250 horsepower, and it was only rear-wheel driven. So again, I didn't felt it was something that I would really buy. And I got to experience a short drive test with a 7 Series, the 740e, which again was the same configuration with the X5. Oh no, the power of the 7 Series was something like 326 horsepower. But yeah, as I said, it's rear-wheel driven as well, that one, and even though, yeah, it was a perfect cruiser for long distances, probably one of the comfiest cars that I got to drive. I was not really able to purchase it because in my budget, at least, the cars were out of warranty, and the mileage was something around 50,000 kilometers. And I thought that it will be a complex car to maintain. So with some regret, I had to say pass once again. So I turned my attention to full electric vehicles, and to be honest, also the fact that with plug-in hybrids you do have to keep your battery at a certain level of charge in order to use the preconditioning function, which on the electric car I thought that would be a given, no matter the battery state. Once again, more on that later, because I do notice that if the charge is under 20%, you still won't be able to turn on the climate unit even on a full electric vehicle. But anyway, yeah, so I was looking at any electric vehicle. I wasn't really intending to buy a Tesla. I wanted at least 300 kilometers of range in any conditions, winter, summer, high-speed runs on outside the country or inside the city. But fortunately, yeah, I ended up buying a Tesla. It was a bit pricey because at that time I was not able to sell my A7, even though it was in a very good condition. The fact that the mileage was quite low compared with some other offerings at that time, I was not able to sell it to obtain the amount that I was looking for, so I had to trade it in. So I bought the Tesla with a buyback system, which meant that obviously I paid more than I should have on that Model 3, but at least it did had only 56,000 kilometers, and it was a dual motor with a large battery. So I thought, all right, it's gonna cut it for our family, especially as it will have been our only car. So yeah, I thought I would go more than 300 kilometers without a problem with that battery. And to be honest, I wasn't really concerned, and this is the point that I'm trying to make. If you're interested in buying a used car, why not look at an electric car? I mean, with some extent, if you have the budget to find a vehicle that's under 8 years old and the mileage is under 160,000 kilometers, or even 190,000 kilometers on Teslas, you could get a used vehicle which still has warranty for the battery and the electric motor, or the electric motors if it's a dual motor. So yeah, I thought, why not? It's a no-brainer. Obviously the car still had plenty of warranty left, and it was a sort of a toy for me. It had 440 horsepower on the same weight as the A7, almost 2 tons. So yeah, it was a joy. Also, the fact that I had nearly no maintenance to do, because with my former car, the A7, I used to pay something like 2 or maybe even 3,000 euros a year just to have the car, just to sit with it in the garage or something like that in the parking lot. So I'm not counting the running costs. And with the Tesla, come on, I had more power, the same weight, and no maintenance cost. And also the running costs. For me, it was somewhere around 200 to about 300 euros every month for the fuel, for the diesel. And with the Tesla, I got that number down to about 100 to 120 euros, which again, it was mind-boggling at the moment. So yeah, I went with that option. As I said, I was a bit limited anyway, but I didn't even bother with battery health test because, as I said, the battery was still under warranty, and they said that if it goes under 70 or 75% of its original capacity, you get you're entitled to a new battery. You get a battery change. So I was something like, hell yeah, why not? Let's go for the electric car. And for the most part, it was an awesome experience. It was relatively easy to go from diesel to electric, especially inside the city. After 1 month, 1 month of ownership, Tesla opened the supercharger near my house. I was like, I don't know, 3 bus stations apart from the supercharger, and it was very convenient, obviously. I had somewhat in the first month of ownership the problem of going to some other charging stations with 100,000 apps and accounts and logging in your credit information, your credit card information. So I saw what's what, but as I said, after the supercharger had opened, I had no problem whatsoever. And also on the long trip, because I took the car first time from Romania to Czech Republic, so about 30,000 kilometers in a week. And the second time around, I went from Romania to France. I did almost 6,000 kilometers. Fair enough, in about 2 weeks that time. But even so, I was obviously relying on the Tesla supercharger network, and it was fairly easy. The car was telling me where to stop for how many minutes. The charging stops were between 15 minutes to about 40 minutes tops. If I would go to eat, and I would have let the car charge for more than that, to about an hour, I would come back and the car was completely full. So yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't necessarily a problem to visit so many superchargers on the way, because come on, after 200, 300 kilometers, you still need to rest for the moment, to stop, to get out of the car. I started to miss the seats in the A7. I understood why those multi-contour seats were so nice on the long trip. But anyway, we were not smokers. We are not smokers, actually. But if we were, I imagine that even more so, you would stop to smoke or to drink a coffee, to have something to eat. So yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a letdown, because I thought that the big battery in the dual motor configuration, the long range, would have helped us travel more than 300 kilometers, even on highway. But that was not necessarily the case. I was getting more like 200 kilometers with 80% charge. If I would charge a car to 100%, yeah, I would go a bit over 300 kilometers. But as I said, that was not a problem in both of our trips. Yeah, probably it extended the whole drive for 1,000 kilometers in a day, with about half an hour or something like that because you still need to stop and eat or recharge your batteries, not necessarily the cars. Anyway, so those are the positives. The overall cost of ownership got really low for me. I will not count the depreciation because I had almost the same depreciation with the A7 and the VW Passat before that. So yeah, at around 30,000 kilometers, no, 30,000 euros paid for the car, plus or minus 5,000. After some time, 2 years, 3 years of ownership, you should expect at least 10,000 kilometers. What's up with kilometers? 10,000 euros in terms of depreciation. So that's that. But as I said, the car was actually quite of a go-kart, and for the most part, I enjoyed it. But I had to sell it because on the longer trips, and especially as we moved outside the city, outside of Bucharest, but our family is still in Bucharest, we got to do at about 2 weeks every other weekend some longer trips, and we still plan some out of the country road trips, which with the Tesla was not necessarily ideal, but not in the way that I need to stop and charge and whatever. In the way that the seats are not comfortable enough. I had the first generation of Model 3, so the noise levels were a bit high, especially after 100 to 110 kilometers per hour, which you tend to do outside Romania because you have highways. And also, the suspension was a bit on the firm side, especially if you went on some longer trips with some questionable tarmac. So yeah, even though the car has never been a problem, has barely risen some repair costs, for those reasons I thought that I should sell it. And to be honest, I'm gonna go through a couple of things that are some disadvantages for electric cars that nearly no one talks about, because either they are sold for electric cars and they're trying to push them, or maybe they also get some, I don't know, some fees from from the sellers if they're trying to sell the cars. I'm not there yet. I don't get any revenue from car manufacturers, so I can state the truth, the obvious, and my own experience with owning the car. Because okay, it's another possibility. Some of them are just reviewers. They never had an electric car, so they probably don't know how things work on the long run. But yeah, the first thing that I have to mention is the range, because yeah, you know that you're not really able to achieve what the manufacturer states. That Tesla that I used to have was something like 450 to about 500 kilometers of range, something like that. Impossible to achieve that. Only if you go with a perfect outside temperature, something around 20 degrees. If you go with 80 kilometers per hour, steady, no wind, whatever, then maybe you could go to about 400 to 500 kilometers in that car, even with the battery degradation that I think in my Model 3 was about 10%. So from 73 kilowatts net, I think my car had left about 67 or something like that. But that's not nearly the whole story. First thing, you have to think about how well you intend to preserve the health of the battery, because if you're running the car by the manufacturer's recommendation, which is to charge the car until 80% for most of the time, and to discharge it to about 20%. Okay, on a longer trip you could go even further than that in both scenarios, but in real life I don't think that you will want to do that. And that's the main issue for me, because from the whole net capacity of the battery, you only use something like 60 to 70% most of the time. With a Tesla, yeah, it was not a problem to get to the supercharger to about with about 4% battery left. I got that low with the battery, and the car was absolutely fine. But I was able to rely on the supercharger network, and I would not do the same with some other electric cars. I had some experience with the ENIAC, and I would keep it above 10 or 15%, because the estimations of the car are not on par with the reality, and yeah, you could get some range anxiety in something like this. And also, if you're not going to superchargers which are reliable, which again you could do even with any other electric cars nowadays because they're open, but if you go to a third-party charger, yeah, I have my doubts. So anyway, so yeah, that's actually one of the problems in my opinion, because nobody tells you that the real range, it's actually almost half of what the manufacturer states. And that really could become a problem. From 400, 500 kilometers that the car maker states, you only get about 200 or 250, which probably for some people is not enough. And then there's another situation. As I said, on a longer trip, you could go over 80% without a problem, without damaging the battery. But I'm not sure that you would want to do that, because yeah, as I said, some heavy raining these days. Because nearly all electric cars have a charging curve. If you have the right conditions, the low state of charge, the right temperature inside the battery, when you get to the charger, presumably you get the optimal charging speed, the top charging speed of the car. But that's from 10% or 20% to about, I don't know, 40, 60%, and it starts throttling until you get to 80%. Then you have probably spent about 30 minutes to the charger, and then it starts throttling hard. There are some cars out there that from 10 or 20% to 80% spend some 30 minutes at the charger, and then if you want to go from 80 to 90%, you could probably stay there for another 10 or 15 minutes, which on a longer trip could be alright if you absolutely have to do that. But if you go from 90% to 100%, then things are a bit different. Because you will most likely stay there for another 20 or maybe 30, even 30 minutes for just 10% of the charge, which in my opinion is not necessarily reasonable. I mean, if you absolutely must charge to 100%, you have no choice, then that's it. do it. But if you do have a choice, most of the time you should just go for 80% or even 90%. It's more logical this way, and as I said, that's one of the other things that almost nobody talks about. Yeah, you could get probably relatively close to that stated range from the manufacturer, but it means that you have to spend an hour or more than an hour at the charging station, which I'm not sure that you should do or you would want to do. So that's with the range. And the second thing that I want to talk about is the fact that when you go to the charger, let's take the same scenario. You're on a road trip, and you went to the charger. The battery was warm, and you charged to 80%, let's say. Especially in the winter, if you have a climate that's a bit colder. From the time that you left the charger with the warm battery until the destination, if it's a hotel or what have you, you could probably lose a couple of percentage. Yeah, no problem. But the interesting thing happens when you get the second day, early in the morning. You get to the car and you see that it has lost some additional percentage from the battery. And that's especially the case with the Tesla if you're using the Sentry mode. If you leave the cameras, the outside cameras of the car running, recording, you could get the next day to the car and see something like 10% of the battery, it's gone. Which was actually the case with my Tesla, because as I said, I had a parking spot almost in the street and I wanted to use the Sentry mode. And in the winter, it was a bit of a problem because I was consuming a lot of energy in this mode, not necessarily while driving the car or heating up the car or what have you. And yeah, that's the first part of the second thing that I wanted to discuss with you. It does happen in reverse from time to time. If you go and charge the car to 80%, it stops charging, and if you leave it for, I don't know, a couple of minutes, in the summer you could go to the car and see that it actually shows you 81%, because as the battery heats up, the energy is more dense, and it tends to show you a bigger range or a bigger percentage. But as I said, that's not necessarily the case every time. Most likely is the other scenario. Okay, so that was, as I said, the first part of the second subject. The second part, it's actually the fact that every time you charge, and especially if you go on the public charger, a high-speed charger, you will encounter another problem, which is great. Some other road works. The faster you charge, the faster the charger is. Even more so, you're gonna see some differences between the energy that you put inside the battery and the one that the charger delivered. Again, it's something you have to get used to, because most of the times, if you're charging at home or at slow charger, which is 11-22 kilowatts, it's not going to be a huge difference, probably half of kilowatt or something like that. But if you're going to the supercharger, for example, and if your car can accept 250 kilowatts, probably charging from 20% to 80%, you will get inside the battery something like, in my case was, I don't know, 50, 55 kilowatts, but I was paying about 58 to 59 from the 55, 54 that I put into inside the battery. I was paying probably until 10% more from the charger, because there are some heat losses, and yes, so those are the two things that make up the second topic. It's something to expect, something to get used to, and are some of the disadvantages of owning an electric car, and especially if you rely on public charging, like I used to do back in Bucharest. So yeah, for the most part, that's actually the end of the first vlog that I tried to do. The conclusion, at least in my opinion, is that you should not be afraid of going for a used car, and used electric car, obviously, because there are more advantages than disadvantages, and even though are a couple of things that you have to get used to and to understand how the things work, to not get mad about it, in my opinion at least, it's the right call. Yeah, you do miss the engine sound from time to time, but for the most part, come on, probably every one of you uses the car 70-80% of the time just as a mean of transportation, and in those moments you don't really need to hear the engine, even though you might have some interesting engine under the hood. You want comfort, you want easy to use, easy to drive, low maintenance or no maintenance actually. So yeah, those are my opinions. You still have to get over the fact that electric cars nowadays still are quite expensive, even in the used market. But if you can afford them, go for it. If you want to purchase an electric car as your second vehicle, more so, go for it. In my opinion, and I know probably it's not a very popular one, diesel and petrol vehicles do not belong inside the city anymore. If you're trying to go for a stroll on any major city, you feel them. You still feel them with all the technical advancements that the car industry has put in place. They're still emitting some nasty gases, and there's no way around it. Okay, they're trying to do hybrids and plug-ins and whatever. Anyway, it's not enough. Inside the city, especially in city centers where are places for oh Jesus, they are redoing the street, but not a railroad crossing, obviously. Anyway, I was saying, especially if there's some places for strolling, for walking, for running, yeah, you should only allow. Damn it! You should only allow electric cars. As I said, that's my opinion. Outside the city, yeah, no problem. Go with diesels. They are amazing on longer trips. Very efficient nowadays. Even petrol engines are starting to become really efficient. So yeah, that's as I said, that's my opinion. I would defend the electric car, but I also understand the things that are not necessarily perfect with the current technology in electric cars. Anyway, I talked quite a lot, almost 40 minutes. So yeah, I think I'll wrap it up. If you want to lay some topics on the comment section or just leave your impressions, you could use the section in YouTube. And as I said, if this video gets your attention, I will try to do some additional ones on some other topics still related with the use of an electric car. Until next time, thank you for watching.